disgruntled Eagles fan, and we're awesome. Welcome Disgruntled. This is going to be a longer video. Now I know that I wanted to keep the videos a couple to 3 minutes longer because I'm sick and tired of the Eagles. Don't worry, I'm still sick and tired of the Eagles, but a lot of new information has came about the Eagles organization. And let me explain. Let's start off with Nicky Foles. I'm going to crush all of your hopes about him. And here's why. This happened the same exact time last year. Week 14. Well, it's week 15, but around the same time, week 14 last year, Carson Wentz gets hurt with a torn ACL. Nick Foles comes in, beats the Rams, heads off, and wins the Super Bowl. Yada, yada, yada. Of course, you already know that. But this year, Carson Wentz with a back injury, injured. Nick Foles enters into a Rams game at home to the Rams. I mean, we're at the Rams. We're not playing in the lake, unfortunately, which would help, kind of. That's not the point in this. I don't think Nick Foles can pull this off and win another MVP after beating the Rams. I don't think that the Eagles are going to beat the Rams at all. Nick Foles and this Eagles team that he's leading now are 6-7, and with a crap ton more injuries on the defense and offense, which I'll get to later in this video. But a ton of injuries on this team, 6-7, and barely looking into the wild card. We're going to need to win out to even make it to the playoffs, even if we want to have a chance. Or at least win 2 out of the next 3 games to have somewhat of a chance to wild card. Last year, Nick Foles came into 11-2 team. Some crucial injuries, of course, Carson Wentz. But he had 11-2 team, which is a far better team than we have now. That's fully healthy. It's pretty much the same team as last year, minus a few parts, but the injuries are overwhelmingly bad this year compared to last year. Nick Foles is not going to be able to beat the 11-2 Rams. The Rams already had their bad game against the Bears last week, where it was a defensive battle and they couldn't get any offensive going. I think the Rams are going to come guns and blazing this game and keep firing on the crippled Eagles defense. The Rams aren't going to let up because they're going to show how dominant they are and how much of a power horse they are in a defense in the NFC. They are a freaking power horse, and they just had one bad game where their offense couldn't get going at all. Todd Gurley hasn't had a good game last game either, and he's going to go off against the Eagles. The Eagles are terrible when it comes to stopping the run the past few games, and they're terrible with stopping the pass too. They're both, overall, they're crappy stopping the pass and the run altogether. But you know what's keeping the Eagles in this game? The Eagles defense having a bending, but don't breaking. They're bending a crap ton, but they're not breaking. Meaning that they're not having the opponent's offense score touchdowns, but yet they're having the opponent's offense score field goals instead of touchdowns, and they're getting turnovers, and which keeps us close in games. And that's why we haven't been getting blown out each and every game. Like the Giants blew out the Redskins of last week. Now, I know you probably already realized that Nick Foles is not going to carry us to the Super Bowl this year. But I think every fan had that little glimmering of hope deep inside of their heart. Maybe, just maybe, Nick Foles will throw 6 touchdowns for 450 yards and win us this game. But it's not going to happen. I'm starting to become a very realistic Eagles fan these past couple of games and through the rest of the season. Because the Eagles are just trash. I really want them to win, but it's just that they're not looking like they're winning at all. I'm going to go back to my normal Eagles self next year when it's a fresh new season and there's not a lot of injuries like this year. Where I have a crap ton of unnecessary hope for no apparent reason and thinking that we're going to win every game the start of next year. But as of now, for this year, I have exactly no hope left and a very realistic Eagles fan. We're going to probably win 1 out of the next 3 games, going 1-2. We're probably going to lose against the Rams and the Houston Texans and beat the Redskins, which is meaningless. But somehow a miracle does happen and we somehow beat the Rams and the Texans and then finally the Redskins. And it's going to be an unbelievable miracle. because it's just not going to happen. Now let me get to this other story, this Carson Wentz injury. He had a fractured bone in his back this week on Wednesday when Doug Peterson reported it to the media. Now apparently he had this injury way back in October during that bye week. And apparently he had all the rest needed, which I don't think he did at all throughout that bye week, because we have a 2-week period where they don't play football, obviously, because they skip a week. And apparently he was all rested. Now I don't believe so, because Carson Wentz was not playing good. Now his statistics were unbelievably good. He threw like 21 touchdowns with only 7 interceptions, freaking high passer rating, but still, he wasn't closing the games like he usually did, like last year, before he got that torn ACL. I think the reason why Carson Wentz hasn't been looking like his MVP self throughout the full game instead of just one half is because of that torn ACL. He's still recovering from that torn ACL because for the beginning of this year, it hasn't even been a full year. But now it's been a full year and he's starting to shape into his old self during that last half of the Cowboys game. But now he cannot participate in this game, and for the next couple games, maybe he still has a very possible chance of coming back the next couple of games next to the Houston Texans and their Washington Redskins. But I don't want him to. I want him to take the rest of the season to recover so that he can actually play football and get up to shape during the offseason and have that full recovery length of participating in practices and working out throughout the entire offseason rather than recovering from an injury and rehabbing it. I'd far rather have him, and I think a lot of Eagle fans would far rather have him practice and get full health rather than rehabbing an injury. The past week, or ever since Doug Peterson has announced Carson Wentz's injury, all of these outbursts of the media came to life. All of the Eagle fans have been saying it, or a lot of Eagle fans have been saying it, and former players from the Eagles have been saying it. Like Emmanuel Achu, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Errol Wolf have outspoken about how the Eagles experience, or the Eagles organization, medical staff, has misused players or misinformed them of an injury. Now on the screen right now is Errol Wolf's statement or tweet of the multiple injuries that led to his final release from the Eagles and all of the injuries that he caught, misrepresented, and miscalled by the medical staff or just not announced by them. And it calls Errol Wolf on our defense to be an early release due to injury. Now here's a statement by Emmanuel Achu on what he thinks of the medical staff.
Just saw Carson Wentz is hurt, so it's time for me to keep it real on the Eagles medical staff. First things first, have to establish I'm not bitter. If I never would have got released several years ago, I wouldn't be where I am, one of the youngest national analysts on ESPN. Back to the main point though. Why did I say they were suspect? I knew a guy when I was playing, he had a torn ACL. He got told he had a tight hip flexor. I broke my thumb, completely fractured. I was told that pop was probably just scar tissue. Again, these are just a couple stories. I'm not going to put too many names to it because that's not the focal point. But here's what you got to remember. The training staff works for the team, not the player, so they have the team's best interest in mind. You, as a fantasy football owner, a fantasy football player, if you see a player hurt, you probably rush them out there so you can win your fantasy football league. Now imagine you are the owner of a billion-dollar corporation. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents, but yes, in my opinion, they're suspect, and it's now proven why.
Now, there's multiple reports about this medical staff. Apparently, it's very unclear about this medical staff that the Eagles have. I've read about people saying that this is a completely new 2018 medical staff and they fired everyone from the 2017 medical staff. And there's people saying, like Emmanuel Achu, that it's been the same medical staff the entire time, or the past few years. I personally think that it doesn't matter which medical staff it is, new ones or old ones, it's still messing up a crap ton. Miscalling injuries is a big issue for football players because it could be the meaning of staying in the NFL or being released and or cut and having to have an early retirement when you do not want to. Injuries is the biggest problem in the NFL with, or what, not the biggest, but one of the biggest issues with, of people not wanting to get injured and or having too serious of an injury that they cannot rebound from it. I personally blame the Eagles organization as a whole. If you're not going to let a player rest, even if they have an injury, then that's not even the smartest move. Even though the Eagles organizations want the players to play, and obviously all the fans do, because that's how they make money. If the best players are playing, then they win games. If they win games, they get more money. On and on and on. This is how companies in the NFL run, or teams in the NFL run. But if you're misinforming injuries, then it's a big deal because it's going to hurt them down the line, and they might re-injure that bone and or place that they previously injured, and they're going to probably re-injure it if it's not fully healed. I think that they should have let Carson Wentz rest a couple more weeks just to let that fully heal. Now, since Carson Wentz is hurt again, he's going to have to miss the rest of the regular season, or just the next game or two. I say just let him rest, finish it out. He's healing from a torn ACL, but now on top of a back injury, it's just not good. I want Carson Wentz to be our franchise quarterback, and I think all Eagle fans do, and the Eagles organization, for the next 10, 15 years. But you can't do that if you're going to get him injured constantly. I blame the Eagles organization more than I do the medical staff. That's just my personal intake on it. I'm going to take the next couple of minutes just to preview this game real quick. The Eagles defense does not have a chance against the Rams' high-powered offense. The Rams' high-powered offense are on fire the past few games, or the entire season except for last game against the Bears. So the Rams are going to completely destroy the Eagles' defense, and this is going to be a statement game for the Rams again. And they're going to blow them out. I predict that the score is going to be 58-7. The final score is going to be 58-7 because we're not going to find any offense, even with Nick Foles. Then our defense is not going to be anywhere like they were against the Cowboys. I mean, with the turnovers and the stops. Instead of field goals, the Rams are going to get touchdowns. This is going to be like the Saints all over again. The Saints came the past couple weeks ago. Nick Foles still has a few weapons to work with, and maybe he can get down the field a few times with the Rams defense, but I don't think it's going to be a lot. And Nick Foles, minus Corey Clement, I feel like Nick Foles is going to get in some rhythm, but not enough rhythm to get any capable, cumulative amount of points. So I just think that the Rams are going to blow out the Eagles. I don't really want to analyze it much more because this is a really easy game to predict. Eagles are going to get destroyed by the Rams. Medical staff is not to blame, or Eagles organization is more to blame than the medical staff. And we just have a bunch of injuries. And that's all I have to say, and thanks for watching. And please subscribe.
On the road to victory.